Some of us learned how to not need anything so young that now, honestly, we feel guilty for just, like human basic needs. I don't think that's the way it's supposed to be. Let me ask you this question. Have you ever started asking for help and then halfway through, asking for something that you legitimately needed help for, you start diminishing? You start backing away from the request before the whole request is even out. You start saying things like, if you have time, if it's not a bother, I hope that's okay. Stuff like that. And so it's so easy to do. Do you ever find yourself doing that? I know that often I find myself, I will be just saying something matter of factly. I'll give you a perfect one from the coaching world. A person schedules a call with you because they want to talk to you about the thing that they know you're an expert at. Okay, so I'm not talking about one of these where, like you're just having a get to know you coffee chat kind of thing, but, they legitimately, said, hey, I'd like to get your opinion on this kind of a thing. Okay, you understand what I'm talking about, right? And then as you're offering the suggestion, and there's times when I use this phrase and there's times when it's effective, but I think a lot of times it's really become a crutch that allows us to not have to, live in our, I hate the phrase live in our power, but I don't know what else to use, to not own who we are. So we use this phrase. Have you ever heard or even used this phrase? Can I have your permission to coach you? And I get it. I've used it a lot, and sometimes it can be really powerful. If something comes up when you're just in a get to know you kind of a conversation, I think that's potentially a good way to say. Although, if you've explained to them who you are and what your expertise is, and they're like, wow, that's it, and then they ask you a question, I don't think you really need to back off of that one either. But anyway, like I said, there's ditches on both sides of that road. And I get the reason why, but a lot of times it really doesn't come from a want to make sure that this person was actually asking you for help. It really comes from stuff inside of us. We've gotten so good at not asking, at backing off, at being less than, not being too much. Have you ever had anybody tell you, oh, you're just too much? You're just extra, right? A lot of us have heard that kind of stuff so much that we diminish this ourself down before we ever even put our whole self out there. So, Jose, it's good to have you here with me. It's 12:15 here, Central Standard American U.S. time. We learn how to just carry our own stuff. We be quiet. We minimize pain. We are as little or as unneedy as we possibly know how to do. In fact, often we get to the place where we're asking for nothing or as close to nothing as we possibly can. What that ends up doing often, I know I've seen it so often in my own life, is we kind of erase ourselves. We make ourselves invisible, and we think that by being unneedy, by not asking for those things, those kind of things, we think that we're showing how strong we are and how much we've got this. And I think a lot of times what we're really actually doing is we're not really sharing who we are. The world needs absolutely, totally, completely who you are. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. The true definition of the word humility. Now, there's a lot of other uses for it, and if you go into the Bible, there's about 10 different Hebrew words that actually, in English, we translate into humble. So I'm not going to get into the whole exegetical nature of that. But the basic true definition of humility, living in humility, is having a right, godly perspective of yourself, meaning that you understand the things you're good at, and you understand the things you aren't good at. And you can just as simply say, hey, I'm really good at this thing, as you can simply say, hey, that's not something I'm really great at. You can simply say, hey, here's something that would really help you. just as easily as you can simply just say, hey, I need help with this thing. That's us showing up in humility. So let me ask you this question. What's something you struggle to ask for, even when you genuinely really need the help? What do you find yourself struggling with? I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm so grateful to spend the time with you here today. I hope you feel so wonderful inside, that you're happy, you feel safe and warmly loved. And until we're together again next time, I think, I hope that you'll join me again next time. And until then, have a great, great week.